If you want to know how to scan for hidden enemies with any operator in Delta Force, how to make sure you always hear the enemy coming, or how to survive even the biggest fall, stay tuned because today I've got you covered with 15 advanced tips and tricks that you didn't know about Delta Force operations on console. The M157 Fire Control System Scope, also affectionately known as the Cheetah Scope, has some pretty interesting features. As well as being a decent all-round scope with variable zoom levels, it can also scan and lock to targets by hitting down on the D-pad when ADSing. For distant or moving targets, this will give you a small dot that you can actually aim at the targets, and that will automatically counteract any bullet drop or lead that you need to take into account. But what it's probably most useful for is scanning for enemies. When you're pointing this at an enemy player, if you press down on the D-pad to scan, it's going to show you their gamer tag and highlight them and tell you there's a player there. It'll also do this even if you can't physically see them. So even if they're hiding in bushes and completely invisible to you, if you're waving the scope around and scanning all the time, you've got a good chance of pinging them and finding out that they're there when there's no other way you would have ever found them without a lunar arrow. If you're struggling with managing the menus and your stash using your controller, then you can actually plug a mouse into your console and use that to manage all of the pages in between games. You can't use mouse and keyboard to actually play the game fully when you're in a round on console, but you can use it to manage some parts of your stash if you're finding that a bit difficult on controller. If you're falling down a large drop in Delta Force operations, you'll often find you lose a chunk of health and probably break your leg as well. But when you're falling, if you manage to ledge grab and grab onto something near the bottom of the fall, you'll actually take no damage at all, and you can do this from very, very high up if you want to risk it. If you have automatic airborne mantle enabled in your game settings, that'll make it easier for your character because you'll automatically grab onto ledges rather than having to press to grab. This is a really effective way of saving yourself from breaking a leg when you need to get somewhere quickly. On the subject of getting somewhere quickly, there's some ladders in the game, particularly these ones on Space City when you're coming up or down from the CEO office, where you can get down them a lot more quickly by jumping down them and then just grabbing onto the ladder at the bottom using a similar technique as before. It's a little trickier on controller than on PC because sometimes your angle goes a bit weird and you drift off to the side of the ladder, but if you stand at the top of the ladder hatch facing the ladder, then just press forward to drop down the hole, and then when you want to grab onto the ladder when you're near the bottom of the drop, just push forwards again so that you move into it and you'll automatically grab onto the ladder as you move forwards into it. It's a lot quicker than climbing all the way down and saves on a little bit of noise. Just make sure you don't screw it up, otherwise you're going to break a leg. If you're curious how far away players can hear you, the audio from sprinting and jumping can be heard up to a maximum of 50 meters away. For walking, it's 35 meters, crouch walking 20 meters, slow crouch walking at 8 meters, and the beeping for reviving can be heard at 30 meters. Keep in mind that's not factoring in hearing buffs and debuffs that you can get from various things in game. If you want a full breakdown of loads of different hearing ranges in much more detail, check out my sound guide that I've already got on YouTube. I'll put a link to that down below. So talking of hearing buffs, helmets in this game can give massive hearing buffs and even debuffs ranging all the way from -15% all the way up to 50%. You can see, for example, the GT1 purple helmet here. This has a plus 20% hearing range boost. The MC201 blue helmet has a similar boost of 20%. The DICH training helmet here has plus 50%. And then some of the big overhead ones like the Mask 1 Iron helmet has a -15% hearing range effect. Those hearing effects work whether the helmet is broken or not as long as you're wearing it. And you can also give yourself an extra 10% hearing range buff temporarily by using either the Perception Activator or the Perception Booster, which both do the same thing but just last for different amounts of time. So that means the biggest hearing boost you could have in this game is a 60% boost to your hearing range, meaning that 50 meter range you can hear sprinting is actually going to end up being more like 80 meters once you take those buffs into account. When you're using a sniper rifle or range scope, you're going to have to think about Sniper Glint. Sniper Glint only occurs when you're using a scope with a greater zoom than 3.5. You can actually see the scopes that have it by checking their stats in the auction house. You can see it will say moderate glint on ADS, and it will say that on all of these longer range scopes. If we go down to these shorter ones, you can see it will say weak glint on ADS for this variable scope. If we go to something that's 3.5 or less, like this blue scope, you can see that doesn't have any glint at all. When using a variable scope that goes higher and lower than 3.5, so the Recon 1.55 for example, these will only give sniper glint when you're zoomed in further than 3.5. So the Recon 1.5 won't show sniper glint when it's zoomed out to 1.5, but it will when you zoom into 5. You'll see sniper glint when a player is looking in roughly a 45-degree arc towards you, so they don't have to be looking directly at you, just vaguely near you for you to see that glint. And the longer the range the scope is, if they're using a 12x for example, that glint will be significantly brighter. You can drastically reduce the effect of sniper glint by using the honeycomb kill flash. That's highly recommended if you're going to be using anything for sniping. Different melee weapons in the game actually do different amounts of damage. If you go to your stash and select your knife and look at the different ones you have available, you can see here I've got Demolin's Edge, the Tac Dagger, and Blackhawk, and these actually do different damage. You can see on the right it says 30, 30, 42. This is basically the combo attack that each of these does, and that's the amount of damage they do with each hit. So 30, 30, 42. Then it's got the armor pen, the headshot multiplier, and other stats. You can see all of those there. If you want to actually check out how effective these are, you can just go into the gun range with a random weapon and then go up to the dummy, and you can test out here. You can see if we hit this, we're going to get the damage in the top left. You can see we've done 60 HP damage to the head, and a second shot is going to kill it. And that's because of the base damage and the headshot multiplier being applied here. Using laser attachments on your guns can be a really effective way of increasing your ADS speed. That's why most people use them, but they can also give your position away quite badly. If you want to turn your laser off at any time, you need to press LB and up at exactly the same time, and that's going to turn your laser off and on. You can't press LB and then up. You have to hit them both at the same time, otherwise it's going to get confused and use one of your tac abilities. It can get a bit confusing because where it shows you the control in the bottom right, you can see on my screen you've got LB and then up on the D-pad, and then kind of what looks like a left on the D-pad next to it. But the thing to the left of it that looks like left on the D-pad, that's actually saying what slot on my gun the laser is. So the laser is on my left side slot on the gun. If I had it on the right, it would be highlighted on the right of that little D-pad, or on the top, it would be the top one. But actually, the D-pad on the right of the LB button, that's actually telling me the control to press. LB and up, it's going to turn that off. If you're finding that your audio comms aren't working in game, try going to your settings and then over to audio and check that your voice chat channel is set to all. If that's set to squad, then you're only going to be able to talk in game chat to people you've invited into your team. You need to have that turned on to all to actually talk to your team in squad fill. That's not going to talk to enemy players. There's no proximity chat or anything. You're not going to be accidentally talking to the enemy, but you need to have this set to all in order to talk to your own team if you're playing in squad fill. You can actually share an extract with an enemy team in this game, particularly worth noting on maps like Space City, where you have extracts that are triggered by levers. If there's an enemy team sitting on that extract, locking it down, and you're just playing as a little solo and you need to get out the map, if you're clever with smoke and sneaking around, you can actually sometimes manage to run on at the last second and share an extract with an enemy team if you can get on there just as it finishes and they don't kill you. On top of that, you can actually also extract in this game when you're knocked. If you get knocked on an extract and the timer runs out, then you'll still extract successfully from the game as long as they haven't fully finished you off. Whenever you're buying armor in this game, it's worth keeping an eye on the auction prices, as well as being able to buy stuff nearly new and damaged. So if we go to auction, vest, you can see we've got new, and then the nearly new or like new tab, and then the damaged tab as well. That's going to let us buy stuff that's a bit cheaper and has a lower starting durability, but can often be very good value. But also even on the new tab, if you just sit there and refresh for a while, sometimes you can just find stuff very, very cheap. For example, at the moment, 130k for the MK Tactical Vest new is a very good price for that. If we sat there and refresh for a bit, or check later in the day, you're probably going to find that vest being easily over 200k to buy. You can actually see that buying them like new at the moment is 150k to buy it like new, and it's 130k to buy it new, so we might as well buy one of those. And you're going to see this quite often. You can see there's 6 available down the bottom left at this price, all the rest of them available at 200k, so just keep an eye on this. The market does occasionally get flooded at random times with very cheap things, so you'll find this with vests, with helmets, and when you see those at good prices, you might as well buy a few of them if it's something you use a lot. There you go, you can see it's up to 200k again now. We just saved ourselves 60 or 70k by buying that vest. So always something worth doing, and you might find yourself a bargain. Don't forget to use your mini-map to check on kill location. So your mini-map in the corner is going to give you little markers when you kill players and also when you kill bots. Bots are going to be marked with these little red crosses with a dot in the middle. They're slightly hollow. And then player kills are shown as these solid red crosses. That's going to help you once you've had a longer fight and you've forgotten maybe where the kills are or where the enemy crawled off to. Look for the red crosses on the map. You can go and find your kills, and once you've looted them or after a certain amount of time, they'll disappear from your mini-map. If you want to import someone else's gun code, I'll put some in the video description as an example that you can check out some of mine. You can do that via your gunsmith. We go to gunsmith and then go down to SMGs and we'll find the P90, for example. If I wanted to import someone else's gun code, I go to loadout and then down to import in the bottom right, and then I have to put in a code here. It's a little bit annoying to do on console because it's a bit harder to copy and paste than it is on PC. You could open up your browser within your Xbox or PlayStation and then copy and paste something from there. Or you could also install the mobile mobile version of the game because there's cross progression in this, so you could have it on your phone and then copy and paste codes into your phone to save them onto your account and then use them on Xbox. You could also use the mobile version to craft stuff in your black site and manage your stash if you want. If you do want to type in the codes on your console, you don't have to type in all of this stuff beforehand. You actually only have to type in the long code at the end. It's still quite long to type in, but it does save you a little bit of work. You can see, for example, if I type in this one and then we hit start and click the little magnifying glass, that's going to pull in that code for that gun without typing the stuff before. Just remember it's case sensitive, so you need to make sure all the letters are capitals. Then click apply, and that's going to apply that loadout to that gun. And you can use that. You can also click save. If you want to save that imported code, you can then save it into one of these slots here. I've already got it saved. That's my own code, so I don't need to do that. Another good little tip is to start thinking about next season's collector's missions. So collector's missions are part of these seasonal missions to get your 3x3 unlocked. And there's often missions where you have to submit unbound items that sometimes can be quite hard to acquire. This can often be lots of purple and gold items and usually a couple of reds as well. So something that's worth doing if you think you might want to try and get the 3x3 safe box next season is to just start hoarding a few gold and red items that you acquire that you don't need to sell. If you're not badly in need of money, hang on to a load of stuff, and then when the next season starts, you might already have some of these items ready to submit, and that's going to save you some time working on those missions. So that's everything for today. Don't forget to drop a like and a sub if you enjoyed the video, and why not check out some of my other many Delta Force guides already on YouTube, or stop by my live stream on YouTube or Twitch. Thanks so much for watching. My name's Ben, we are the Beard Guys, and I'll see you next time.